Okay.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Wow, yesterday's Thursday's weather was kind of ridiculous. We had a lot of cloudy weather, but it was like literally like a 30-degree temperature difference between election day on Tuesday and yesterday, which was Thursday. Some snowflakes. We were by the lake. You could see the snow or the rain or the snow, whatever it was, over the lake, and it was really unique. It was one of those days where if the sun was out, it felt okay, comfortable. But when the sun was behind the clouds, man, it got cold. Anyways, just really interesting that that's the beauty of April in Wisconsin. And I think that's kind of a weird obsession or kind of a sick obsession about Wisconsin, why we love Wisconsin. So we'll leave it at that. Today is supposed to be Good Friday. Mrs. Chen and I were supposed to be in Seattle. We were just talking about that we should have been waking up in a hotel, and it never happened. It's very sad because my niece was supposed to get married tomorrow. And so we're all kind of disappointed about that. We were looking forward to. I was actually stationed in Seattle, Fort Lewis, Washington, and for me to be able to go back there, and it's ironically her. Funny. What's interesting is that her fiance, Eugene, is a warrant officer in the Army, and he's a pilot. He's a full-time pilot, and he flies Chinooks, so he flies supplies, and actually he flies supplies to troops and stuff like that on the front lines. And so it's a lot of risk position. It's a risky position too, because big shiny metal object floating in the sky, it's a pretty big target for IEDs and, not IEDs, but RPGs. So he's going to be leaving next week. So it's kind of unfortunate, but had to happen. But like I said, we were going to be going to Seattle, and he was going to take us to Fort Lewis, where I was. So that would have been really, really fun. But unfortunately, that's not happening. So, but we're safe. We're fine. We feel great. We're looking forward to Easter weekend here, kind of by ourselves. So it's gonna be a fun weekend. So, anyways, without further ado, we're gonna finish up chapter 11. Remember, Lefty Lewis is the gentleman, and now he's at Lefty's house, and he wakes up. We'll finish up. We're gonna do the last paragraph on page 118. The woman pulled the blanket back over my legs and shook me again. Excuse me, I was glad I could stop pretending I was asleep. I was sick and tired of hearing about how skinny I am and what a mixed up family I come from. She said real soft, "Bud, wake up. Come on, sweetie. I've got a nice breakfast waiting for you." Food. I started blinking and acting like those were the first words I'd heard that morning. I said, "Huh?" Like I was kind of confused. The woman smiled real big and said, "Oh ho, I see that got your attention, didn't it? Good morning, young man." "Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, Mr. Lewis." He said, "Hey, you remember my name? I'm impressed." "Good morning, Walking Willie. We've got to hit the road in a bit. Better hurry up and get some food in your belly." He acted like he was whispering just to me when he said, the food in this joint ain't the best. But I guarantee you after you eat here, you won't be hungry for days. This meal's going to be sitting on your stomach like a rock for a good long time." The woman said, "Ignore him, Bud. My father doesn't mean anything. He just can't stop teasing." I said, "I know, ma'am. He told me I've got a head shaped like a peanut." The woman slapped her father in the arm. "Papa, I can't believe you teased this child already. What is on your mind?" Lefty Lewis rubbed his hand over my head and said, "Look at this noggin. I rest my case. Boy looks like one of George Washington Carver's experiments, sprouted legs and run up. You sure you're not from Tuskegee, Alabama, Bud?" Oh, that's something you could look up. Tuskegee, Alabama, and what's the significance of Tuskegee, Alabama in the history of the United States, okay? Something for you to look at. I said, "No, sir." The woman sucked in her lower lip and swallowed the smile before she said, "See, Bud, he can't help himself. But he really doesn't mean anything, do you, Papa?" The way she asked that, you'd have to be pretty stupid not to know how to answer her. Lefty Lewis said, "Not a thing. It's just that you..." His daughter spoke up. "My name is Mrs. Sleep, Bud." "Pleased to meet you, ma'am." "Now, while you wash up, I'm going to go get some clothes that my boy outgrew a while ago. Barely been used. So when you get dressed, you come on down and we'll eat. You chose a great day to visit. We're having a very special breakfast today. Pancakes, sausage, and toast, and a big glass of orange juice. You can meet Scott and Kim, too. How's that sound?" "That sounds real good, ma'am. Thank you very much." "Don't mention it. It's a pleasure to have such a well-mannered young visitor." Mrs. Sleet and Lefty Lewis left the room. As soon as they were a little bit down the hall, I could hear her start in on scolding her father again. "I just can't believe you. You know, Mama was right about you." And all I could hear next was him mumbling some answer and her slapping his arms again. After I got out of the bathroom, I saw that Mrs. Sleet had put some clean clothes on the bed. My old clothes were gone, all except for my drawers, which I hadn't taken off. She'd even put clean drawers out for me, so when I put them on, I stuck my old ones down in the pocket of my new pants. Ooh. I could ditch them when I got to Grand Rapids. It's too embarrassing to have strangers look at your dirty drawers, even if the stranger is as nice as Mrs. Sleet. The new clothes were just a little bit too big, but they were long pants and not knickers, so I didn't care. I rolled cuffs into the pants and sleeves, and they fit pretty doggone good. Man, my first pair of trousers. I let my nose lead me down to where the smell of pancakes and toast was coming from. The Sleets had a room for eating, and it had a great big table right in the middle of it. The first thing I noticed was a huge pile of pancakes sitting on a blue and white plate on top of the table. Lefty Lewis was sitting with Mrs. Sleet's kids. The little girl had a big smile, and the boy was looking at me kind of hard. It wasn't one of those put up your dukes looks. It was just a look like one dog gives another dog that might be passing through his neighborhood. Lefty Lewis said, "Bud, these two worrisome midgets are my favorite grandkids. Kim is my favorite granddaughter, and Scott is my favorite grandson. Of course, they're my only grandkids, so in fairness, you'd have to say they're at least my favorite. So in fairness, you'd have to say they're also my least favorite grandkids." These two kids had had a lot of practice being around their teasing old granddad because they didn't pay him no mind at all. I said, "Hi, my name is Bud, not Buddy." The little girl said, That's a strange name, Bud, not Buddy." Even though she was kind of young and scrawny to be teasing folks, I could tell that was exactly what she was doing. Lefty Lewis laughed and said, "That's my girl." Then he went into the kitchen. Scott looked up to make sure the grown folks weren't around and said, "You really run away from home?" I had to stop and think. It's one thing to lie to a grown-up. Most times adults want to hear something that lets them take their attention off you and put it on something else. That makes it easy and not too bad to lie to them. You're really just giving them what they want. It's different when you lie to another kid. Most times kids really do want to know what they're asking you. "I guess I've been thinking too long because he said you run all the way from Grand Rapids to Owasso? Was it because your daddy used to beat you?" I could answer with the swear for truth God, or swear for God truth. Shucks, my daddy never laid a hand on me in his life. "Then how come you run?" I didn't like where I was, and that wasn't a lie. "Well, if you're lying about your daddy beating you, you better scram right after my breakfast because my gramps is going to take you straight back home." "My daddy never laid a hand on me." The little girl said, "Scott, you talk too much. Let him sit down." Then she told me, "Mama's going to be bringing the sausage in a minute. You like sausages?" Uh-huh. I'd never had sausages before, but if that was making the house smell so good, I was gonna love it. Kim said, "Good, because my grandpa bought them all the way from Grand Rapids. He always brings us good food, and we're going to share it with you, because Mama says you're our special guest, and we have to treat you nice." Am I being nice? So far. Good. I'll make a deal with you. Uh-oh. What kind of deal? I'll sing a song that I made up all by myself, and when I'm done, I get to ask you one question, and you have to answer and cross your heart, and you'll tell the truth. Now, this didn't sound too bad. Okay. Here goes. It took me a very long time to make this song up, so I hope you like it. The boy said, "Oh, brother." Kim sang, "Mommy says no, Mommy says no, I listen, you don't, wah, 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 wah. The building falls down, the building falls down, you get crushed, I don't, wah, 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 wah." Boy, that was about the worst song I'd ever heard. Kim stood up and bowed like a princess. I clapped my hands together, kind of soft under the table. She said, "Thank you very much." Scott just shook his head. Kim said, "Okay, that's my part of the deal. Now you got to keep your part and answer any question I ask. Okay? Now you can tell me all about how your mother died." Scott's foot kicked at her under the table. I said, "Who told you my mama died?" The little girl said, "Oops," and stuffed something from her hand into her mouth. "My mama got sick. She died real fast. She didn't feel no pain or suffering." Kim said, "I hope my mother never dies." Scott said, "Stupid, everybody's got to die." Kim said, "Oh, I'm telling Mama you call me stupid." He said, "You do, and I'll tell her that you got one of those pancakes right in the pocket of your dress." She shut right up. I told her, "He's right. Everybody's got to die. It's not sad unless they do it real slow and suffer. My mama died so quick and painless that she didn't even have time to close her eyes. She didn't even have time to make a face like she was hurting." Both of Lefty Lewis's grandkids looked real surprised at this news. Mrs. Sleet came into the room with another blue plate covered with little round pieces of meat. Those had to be the sausages. She saw the way her kids were looking at me with their mouths half open and said, "Now you two aren't talking Bud's ear off, are you?" Scott said, "No, Mama, I'm not," but Kim's coming real close to. Kim said, "I was not. I was just making pleasant conversation." Mrs. Sleet laughed and set the plate on the table right in front of me. Lefty Lewis came out with a big glass jug filled with orange juice and sat down next to me. Mrs. Sleet sat down and said, "Scott and Kim, would you say grace, please?" Everyone ducked their heads down and the two kids said, "God is great. God is good. Let us thank him for our food. Amen." Then people started passing the big blue plates around and stabbing toast and pancakes and sausages with their forks. I watched to see how much everyone took and tried to take the same. Then I started to watch how much food the other two kids put on their fork every time so I wouldn't look like a pig. Lefty Lewis noticed I was taking a long time and told his daughter, "See what I told you, Nina? Poor not Buddy is so skinny and his stomach has shrunk down so much that just smelling the food has got the boy full. Oh, well, I guess that just means more food for the rest of us." Everyone except for me and Mrs. Sleet yelled a big cheer. Eating with the Sleets and Lefty Lewis was really hard to do, not because they had bad table manners or nothing, but because they talked through the whole breakfast, and they kept trying to get me to talk too. At the home after Grace was said, we weren't allowed to say boo. Eating and being quiet is a hard habit to break. Every time one of those Sleets would talk to me and look at me like they expected an answer, I'd look around first to make sure no one was watching. At the home, if you got caught talking during mealtime, you'd have to get up and leave your food. If these Sleets had to live under those rules, they'd all starve to death. They talked after every swallow. They talked after every drink they took. They talked while they were wiping off their lips. Shucks, the little girl Kim talked with milk running down her throat. Some of the time her words got glugged up in what she was swallowing, and laughed. Man, they laughed. Did they laugh? It was hard to tell whose story they were laughing at. They were doing so much chattering. Lefty Lewis was talking about radio shows, and Scott was talking about going to a baseball game to watch Lefty Lewis pitch, and Kim was talking about a little girl she didn't like, and Mrs. Sleet was talking about some people called redcaps. Kim said to her mother, "Mommy, can't you tell that Bud Not Buddy doesn't know what a redcap is? You gotta explain better." Mrs. Sleet said, "Oh, sorry, Bud. Redcaps are the men who work at the railroad station loading the trains and taking people's bags to their car. That's what Mr. Lewis does. My husband is a Pullman porter. He takes care of the people once they're on the trains." Kim said, "Yeah, our dad gets to travel all over the country on trains for free." Scott said, "That's because he's working. It's not for free. He gets paid to do it." Lefty Lewis swallowed a big hunk of sausage and said, "And you know what, Bud? I bet the thing he misses the most is Nina's cooking. I can't tell you how proud I am of how far my daughter's cooking has come. This might be hard to believe, but she used to be such a bad cook that her fried chicken was known to have turned a chicken hawk into a vegetarian." Scott and Kim and Mrs. Sleet started busting a gut. "Yep," Lefty Lewis said. "I brought a friend to Flint a couple years ago, and even though I warned him, he tried to be polite and ate 4 of her pancakes. Poor soul held his stomach all the way back to Grand Rapids. Said to me, 'Lefty, I don't mean to show any disrespect, but those weren't pancakes your daughter served me. They were pancakes.'" Mrs. Sleet laughed along with everybody else and said, "Well, I'm sure I don't need to hear any more of this," and picked up the empty sausage plate and went into the kitchen. As soon as she got out of the room, Kim whispered, "Quick, Grandpa, tell Bud Not Buddy how many times you had to pull the car over when you two were going back to Grand Rapids so that man could get out and vomit on the side of the road." Before Lefty Lewis could answer, Mrs. Sleet came out of the kitchen with a big wooden spoon and whopped her good father a good lick in the head. All right, that's it for chapter 11. We'll finish up. Chapter 12 looks to be about 18 pages, so we'll split that in half, and then I will probably try to upload. Like I said, I will probably try to, since it's spring break next week, I'm still going to continue the same schedule. I know some of you really like the structure, but like I said, keep in mind, I can't stress this enough. Please don't feel obligated to do any work whatsoever during spring break. It is our regularly scheduled spring break. It was just interrupted by COVID-19. So anyways, I really hope you guys have a great week next week. Hope you have a great weekend. It's Good Friday today. Hope you guys have a good Easter Sunday. I know it's going to look totally different than what we're used to. As you can see, I'm wearing another Brewers hat. I did get a couple of responses for Brewer to research. I want you to look up another Brewer. It doesn't need to be a current one. It could be a past one. It could be Brewers legends, Brewers Hall of Famers, whoever it is you want to be. Anybody that played for the Brewers. Actually, as a matter of fact, I want you guys to look up a pitcher by the name of Bill Wegman. Wegman. Mrs. Chen and I actually got to know him too pretty well. He was a great guy, but I want you to tell me his story and where he is now and what he does. But you don't have to pick Bill Wegman if you don't want to, though, okay? All right, guys, I will be talking to you guys soon. I'll be uploading 2 videos today, and we'll hopefully get those, and then we'll record some more tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday as well. So love you guys. I really miss you. I'm holding out hope that we can still get back to school. I don't know. I'm really hoping so. Don't want to say too much, but I will be talking to some of you this afternoon. Take care, guys. Love you. Bye-bye.